Okay, I must stop looking at myself, looking to the right and look to the left instead and be serious. Lately I came across some video on YouTube. It was a woman, a lady from Canada, talking about her life as a sex trafficked person. I'd seen that video for a long time. I'd listened to it about 10 minutes, like a few months ago, and I thought, she's just acting like a victim. And I stopped watching it, and it kept being shown, and I thought, I'll give it a go again. Have a look. What has she got to say? She seemed really upset about her past. And it sounds like there's something to be upset about in her past. It was interesting to listen to her, how she got raped, how she found a pedophile, how he told her not to tell her parents, and they would stop loving her. But what I didn't understand was there was nothing said about her family. Like, it would have been nice to have a bit more context. She talked about that the family place was a disrupted environment, but she didn't say if she got fed regularly, whether they ate healthy foods or not, whether there was any respect at home with anybody, whether she felt respected, whether others respected each other. There was a lack of information, so it's easy to take a judgment when we don't know everything. And it's what I did. But I listened to her till the end, and I didn't understand how she got out of it. I listened to it 2 and 3 times, but all she seemed to say was, I slept for 3 days, and that saved my life. Does she mean she slept for 3 days? Did the pimp disappear suddenly? What happened? I don't know. But it's interesting to read the comments of that video, nearly as much as listening to the video itself. It's easier to talk to people when we don't see them. Well, for me it is. And it seems to be the case for other people as well. It made me think, would I ever be brave enough one day? I have already. To talk about my past, to talk about the story, but does it matter? And why does it matter? Maybe there is no need. We are not our past. None of us are. We are not our future. None of us are. We are just what we are now. And if that's a gather of experiences and memories, if I am just my memories, it's not a great place to be, don't you think? Are you just your memories? I'm talking to you now, not to myself, but to you. If you had no memory tomorrow, you woke up, you had a strange stroke during the night and your memory was wiped out. You knew how to use a computer, how to play the piano, but you didn't know who you were, nor who that email was, that name was. You had forgotten everything of yourself, but you knew how the world worked. What person would you suddenly become? You wouldn't be who you were because you can't remember your behavioral patterns. So how would you do it? Sometimes I think about that. And I think if I didn't remember my past and didn't remember anything of who I was, wow, the world opens. nothing matters anymore. I am here and now for a short while. There's only wonder. However, you know about the past thing and the shame and all that. And why sexual dysfunction and lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth and value, why it leads us into places that we drag along with us like that lady had. I have too. Something like that. But I feel peaceful about it. What I don't feel peaceful about is France, where I come from. That doesn't feel good. Whenever I think of that, I think of the sadness, the disease, the lack of love among people, the criticism, the harshness, and I cannot grow up from it. I need to let go. I'm not there anymore. But the past in England, I didn't know what life was. I was so shy. I still am in some ways. It's so hard to say no. And one day, you've enough of saying yes to everything you want to say no to, and you go in another direction. The one you know that others will disapprove of, so you tell nobody. You go into a line of work because you feel so worthless that nobody will employ you, and there are no jobs out there anyway, other than in horrible places like factories. I've only been in a few of those. They have been pretty awful. Burger King, yes, I could have gone and worked again in there. I just couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear to bend my back to stupid managers telling me to do ridiculous things like wiping the leaves of a fake plastic tree one by one with a spray and a cloth. She sacked me soon after that, the lady. I said something. I said, what's the point of this? A plastic fucking tree in a fast food place that makes people fat and unhealthy? Great. Yes, go and work in there. So I worked in there for a while. I worked in factories, I worked in restaurants, I worked canvassing, selling magical hoovers door to door. Well, actually, I just went to a meeting. I thought those people are fucking nuts. They're in a crowd, he's showing us slides, he's trying to get us to shout yes, 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 and sell those stupid hoovers to, which must have cost about £1,500, £2,000 at a time. And we get a £10 commission or something every time we sold one. The jobs, telephone canvassing, I've done that. It's fucking awful. Don't do it. It's horrible. What have I done? What have I not done? I've done some extra work. Pretty tedious. All of us extras, we want to be famous. Nobody gives a shit about us. Some of us makes it. Some of us don't make it, sorry. Some of us make it. What have I worked as? I've done so many things. I can't remember them all. Pizza delivery, that was fun most times. Yeah, that was funny. Indian delivery, that was interesting. Working in an Indian restaurant as a waitress, that wasn't fun. No, they're pretty fierce, pretty stern in that restaurant. I wouldn't say generally, but You can tell. The waitress very, tight lips most of the time. Yeah, and then I went into that sort of work, lap dancing. I went modeling, actually. That's the first thing I wanted. I was so low confident about myself. And I knew my body was nice. It had a good shape. I knew I wasn't very tall, 1.64 m, so it's not very tall. But I tried it anyway, so I saw an advert for a model. I thought, great, I'd love to be a model. I'd have some self-worth. People would at last value who I am for my looks. Advert number 1, I'm not too sure where that one went. To an agency that sort of took some details, said, do you have a portfolio? Do you have any photos? I said, no, can't have you if you don't have the photos. I said, how much do they cost? They said they cost £1,000 or £2,000, whatever you want to pay. I said, I haven't got that money. They said bye-bye. So I went to another advert, guy saying, looking for models for lingerie. So that's okay, let's have a look. And I went in there, it was in Cardiff, a flat somewhere, can't remember where. An older guy opened the door. Sort of a strange smile. Thin, dry guy, tall. In his 50s, 60s, I was 23. Led me to his lounge. He had a light there, a backdrop. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I thought, what the fuck, is that it? And he said, would you mind taking your clothes off? I was so shocked, I didn't know what to say. I did expect it was for underwear, but then he said, you want to take your top off? I'm not too sure what I said. I think I said no. It freaked me out. That man was just strange. But I was out of work and I really wanted to be famous. So maybe that's where I had to go by, to take my clothes off, to, make it as a model, but it didn't feel right. Then after that, that's when the lap dancing started. We had a first lap dancing club in Cardiff. Pretty cool. I was one of the first ones to dance in there. There hadn't been one before, other than like one on and off, like type that just, they happen like every 6 months in some pub. So, yeah, that was strange. Again, I felt really low confident, and all the other girls looked more pretty than me. And I thought, they're gorgeous. She's blonde, she's got huge boobs. I'm short and sort of slim and French, and I can just about speak enough English to be understood. Not very sexy, really. Made a bit of money. Actually really liked it. You know what I liked it? It was being on stage. I just loved being on stage. I loved dancing. I used to love dancing in nightclubs, just on my own. I loved it. Then the modeling carried on a bit. Can't remember who else there was in Cardiff. I must have eventually taken my clothes off. What happened? It's been so long, I can't even remember. Cardiff, the band, the manager. I moved to London, did some really dodgy work in London. What was that place in Greenford? Behind toll gates, in some Ponzi flats, there was like what did they do? It was either like an online porn thing, I don't know what, it's super dodgy. They all were really rich in there. Well, the bosses had really expensive cars, and it seemed like they took a lot of drugs as well. I wasn't into drugs, so I wasn't interested really, but I can't remember what happened there. Nothing great, and I ran off eventually, found somewhere to live in Wembley. And during that time, I'd started with a rock band because I play piano. So I thought, yeah, I'll be famous with a band. Great, I'll do that. So yeah, I joined that band who wanted me. Or at least they were like sort of, not soft rock, sort of a rock punk type thing. They were called Tantric at the time. Then they changed the name to something else. They were sort of cool English people, you know, much older than me. I didn't fit. I'm not the kind of a rock keyboardist, and I play classical stuff. It was really weird. The manager was a weird one. I speak about him quite a lot in my blog. Yeah, he was very strange. He didn't mind what I did. That's when, at the time, I couldn't pay my rent, couldn't find any work in London. Yes, I couldn't. So I did a bit of modeling. Had I started top shelf stuff by then? When did that start? I'd probably started in Cardiff a little bit. Yeah, I did. But there wasn't too much work, or I hadn't found all the right studios yet. So I only had a little bit of work. I didn't have to pay the rent, so then I went to a massage parlor. I didn't know what it was. And it's where men come in. You give them a 5 minutes back rub, and then you give them a wank. It was the most degrading thing I've ever done. Ever. Degrading as in, I felt like shit. I was earning £1,000 a week. I could not keep that money. It just disappeared. Some of it got stolen. Doesn't matter. That money was stinking, horrible money. I was so ashamed of myself. What would my parents think? I lied to them. How could I tell them the truth? How could I tell them that I was failed, that I so badly wanted to be famous, yet at the same time I felt like I was a most worthless person on earth, not because of what I was doing, not just because of that, but because I already felt shameful. I grew up feeling shameful. I grew up feeling dirty. My body was dirty from when I can remember. And that's because of the rape. The rapes is what settled that. So I'm not going to blame the rape for who I am today. The past is the past. I needed that. Don't say that. Don't even say it. That had to happen in order for me to follow the path and hopefully land on my feet, which I did at last. But it's taken so long. When we get lost, it's so hard to get back on the right track. I didn't work very long in there anyway. 3 months. She sacked me because one day I was massaging someone's back. He was, on his back, and there was a little sink over there, huge mirror, so the client could admire himself being pampered. And I looked at the mirror, and I did that. Like that. I'm not being offensive to YouTube. I'm showing you what I did to the mirror. Okay? It's nothing to do to you. And she sacked me a couple of days later. Now I think she had cameras in there. And it was in 2001, something like that. And hidden cameras did exist, but they weren't that common, not like today, really. Yeah, interesting time. I was glad I got out. I had a boyfriend at the time, a sort of American guy who was a chef. He didn't brush his teeth. It was a bit embarrassing that. I shouldn't have said that really. That's nothing to do with what we were talking about brushing our teeth or not. Yeah, after that, more glamour modeling in the studios. I was living in a squat at the time. That was fun. Brilliant. The squat's big warehouse. We had the whole space. French guy was there. Oh, there was a loony next door. He was loony. That's where I started with them. And I said, went to the first guy and said, I can't stay there. He's just fucking nuts. That man, he walks around shouting in the corridors and he's really threatening. But yet at the same time, he's really clever. So Total said, oh, come and live with us. And then gave me a whole room. It was beautiful. And during that time is where I also started. There was at that time I met the photographer who gave me accommodation for 3 years. Yeah, that was fun, wonderful time of my life, brilliant. It's where I started the chocolates. He gave me free rent, and he had a garden in London. Amazing time. We did a lot of photos. Did an American website. I was one of those girl next door type models who posted sets every week. Like we had to post 2 sets for the members, and I used to like taking the piss, because to me the whole sexual thing is just a piss take. What the fuck, what's all that about? Why do we need it, really? So yeah, that was fun. So studio work, private photographers, fell in love again, which got in the way of my relationship with the person I lived with, with which I was friends. Oh yeah, the band, that was finished. The band split up, or at least I left the band in 2002. We went to Germany. The van broke down. Usual, like excellent rock star tour stuff. Yeah, it was after that. And after that, yeah, what I haven't said is when I came to England and I was very shy. Well, in France, I didn't have a boyfriend. I had someone I kissed once, or maybe 2 people I kissed once, that was it. In England, I felt, I was 18. I wanted a boyfriend, so I found one. He was a drunk in a restaurant I worked in. He was horrible. He was a lot older than me. Ugh, I can't believe I had sex with him. It was horrible. Then the second one was we're not racist. He was from the Caribbean, and he was pretty pushy, and he thought a lot of himself. Talk about narcissism. That was horrible. At the back of the car of the nightclub, I cried and thought about my father. It was horrible. Don't do it. It's horrible. Sex is pointless. Yeah, so I said yes. I said yes to men. I said yes all the time because I felt so low in myself. I felt I was worthless. Therefore, any man looking at me and wanting me was a honor. An honor. A honor. So I had to... It's done in Western Europe. You sleep with people really quickly. You don't know them and you're in their bed already. Then suddenly the next morning you realize actually you don't like them very much. What do you do now? But that happened a lot to me, so I ran away a lot. I ran off a lot and left them behind a lot. So yes, that's a thing growing up, and you don't have any self-esteem and you have to say yes to everybody. So after living with that friend for 3 years, who gave me free rent, and I fell in love with a man who was maybe 33 years my elder. That was wonderful for a while, and then I fell out with him because he smoked cannabis and I was anti-drugs, really anti-drugs. I hated drugs because I'd been spiked once in Cardiff by an ex-boyfriend from a certain place, and that was horrible. So I didn't like any drugs. But after him, I fell in love with someone on the internet who was young. He was my age, lived in Australia. He was beautiful, did amazing music with a beautiful band, and I was in love, really in love. So I went over there. I thought I was, it was nice. I thought I was going to get married, perhaps, and maybe I thought I met the person I was supposed to be with, but I didn't like Australia. It was horrible. I only saw Melbourne, but I'm sure it's beautiful. I just saw the city, I saw the tourism, and not even the tourism, it was just grey, hot, dry, nothing grows. I just didn't want to be there, so that was very traumatic. Not Australia, but Thailand. That was super traumatic. I was on my own, got conned by taxi drivers. The hotel was full of cockroaches in the toilet, in the wash basin was blocked. Nobody would look at me to talk to me to help. I had a fucking crisis. I promise you, I went mental. From that point, I have not been mentally sound. That really broke something in me. I don't know. Traveling on my own was just the wrong thing to do. No sex happened. Oh, that was amazing. Oof. Nobody to not say no to. So to go back to that, after I broke up with that person in Australia, back in England and back with my friend, talking to a lady friend, I said I'm fed up with that Catholicism stuff. You know, there's a thing about men having to say yes. Yes, I've been top shelf model and stuff. I'm going to make men pay for it. I've had enough. I'm going to be an escort. So I signed up with an agency and I thought I'm going to regain the control. I've had enough of giving my body all the time for nothing, feeling I'm like shit, feeling dirty, yet giving it. So I started voluntarily in this field. I did not have a pimp. I did not do it on the street. I did it on my own accord as a responsible person, and I had some amazing experiences and some creepy ones, and I was very lucky. I believe all this time I had a soul that guided me. I believed spirits were all around me and helping me. I was talking to my mother in spirit, only in my head. But all that mattered to me. So I always kept a light in my head. And even though I felt worthless internally inside, I thought something good is going to happen. I know it. And I met several people. I had a couple of boyfriends who were clients. It didn't work out very well. One of them was a great experience. He wrote a book about where I come from, met my family. They never knew anything. The other one, real catastrophe, married millionaire, living not far from Herefordshire actually. I don't know, I think I felt pity for him. I didn't find him attractive at all. Ugh. Not my kind. Paid for me to have a private jet once to go from London to Nice or something? Was it? No, maybe it was just from France, from Toulouse to Nice. Yeah, maybe it was just a couple of hours. And I really needed the money at the time because I lived in a place in London that was really expensive, £800 a month, plus bills. I shared with a friend, and he was really poor too, so we were both fucked. We didn't have any money. I earned all this money, but I spent it all on therapy because I was so fucked up in the head. I needed help, and I spent it on organic foods as well because I didn't want to get cancer and die like my mother and brother did. Well, actually, my brother hadn't died at the time, but he died a little bit later. I was just hypochondriac, paranoid. I felt alone. I felt I couldn't really count on my family because I couldn't tell them anything because, well, they were pretty judgmental when I grew up, so I thought they would be likely to be the same today. But we forget that people change. I change, we change. So, yes, that ended. The escorting ended. I did fall in love so badly with some of the customers. 3 of them, hell. You know, it's that thing like when you touch someone and you feel a real current, and you never feel it again with anybody else. But it's not meant to happen, and it's great to know that it can happen, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen, because I've got to be committed, don't I, if I want that in my life. But I don't particularly want it. I think I've had enough men in my life. Yeah, that stopped. I was lucky. I met someone in London, not relating to the, the escorting, who offered me to move away. He knew what I was doing. He was okay about it for a while, but after a while he wasn't okay about it. Well, who would be, frankly? If your girlfriend sleeps with other men for money, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? So moved to Wales, and from there moved to Herefordshire and started a chocolate business, which is thriving till the day I posted this video. You know what? If I have to go and work for Burger King or in Morrison's, it will be hard. I will fall out with people all the time. All the time. I'm already falling out in anticipation with about half the stuff. Only because, I don't know, actually, I used to fall out with everybody. Couldn't make friends. I don't know, it's like an anger inside, perhaps. Probably not there now, but yeah, it's a funny time. Yeah, it doesn't matter if my business was to fail. Touch the wood. Well, you know what? I know I can succeed because I'm succeeding at the moment, and I'm really happy. This is the best time of my life. Sorry the past, sorry everybody else who was in the past who's not being mentioned in this moment because you're not with me, but this is the best time of my life, and I'm proud of myself for having believed in the better of things and looked for what could get me out of the pattern of my mind. Understanding who I am by recording and listening to it again. Thank you for not judging. You don't know everything, and I can't remember half of it. And half of my memories are probably fake, because apparently half of our memories as humans, we change because we don't remember, so we make it up. But no, I've not made all that up. That's it now. I probably won't post that. It's a bit probably not postable. It's interesting life, isn't it?